Welcome to Spotlight. I'm your host, Amitha. Join me weekly as I talk to guests who will help us to achieve mind, body, and soul wellness. Our guest today is a cardiovascular surgeon turned naturopath who is using his groundbreaking research to improve global health and the healthcare system. It's my honor to welcome to our show Dr. Ravishankar Polisetty. Thank you for being here, sir.
Thank you very much for having me here.
We are excited to find out about Dr. Polisetty's latest innovation. But before that, tell us a bit more about your growing up, your education.
Yeah, see, I grew up as an ordinary human being, as an ordinary child, but I was always good at academics. We made sure that, we kind of excel well, in our studies. So that was always burning in me, in us. I mean, in us, because, there's a group of people that we always worked together, studied together, literally, woke up, slept, worked, and together. So, and then I went into the medical school. Then, in my school, in the primary school, we were exposed to a lot of spiritual stuff. So that, along with my medical education, especially when I was reading pharmacology in the third year of my medicine, I saw there's so many side effects for each of these drugs. So we are all, as aspirant doctors, we were really concerned about, what are we giving to our patients? Many of the drugs, the mechanisms of many of the drugs is not known. So that was an area which triggered me to think something else. Then I figured out that we'd been, at least in our those regions like India, Asia, China, Arabic world, we'd been living for the past 5,000 years, I thought, and our ancestors must have done something. There must be some accumulated wisdom. So I slowly peeped into those ancient scriptures, and I found really interesting. It was so interesting that, I kept on reading and reading and reading and figured out what the ancient scientists did was they kind of came up with three libraries of biochemical reactions, of physiological reactions, of physiological processes, immunological processes, three broad categories. Under each category, they again subclassified the processes into 5. And then they went on like that until they achieved 8.4 different million processes that are happening in you and me as we talk. Wow. So that was how this fascinated me, the alternative medicine or the ancient medicine. So then the problem was that the correlations weren't there. The language was different. I read all the scriptures in Sanskrit, and most of those words didn't have any equivalent words in the current form of medicine. So that's how I started. I thought, if there are so many libraries. The information is like pretty much classified into groups, just like Google did. Just before Google came in, search was a menace. Actually, we used to, type in a word in the box, and then you go out, do all the stuff you have to do, take shower, do prayers, and then and then come back after an hour. Then your search is ready. And then what Google did was they classified all the words into 26 libraries. The first letter, and based on the first letter, you have 26 libraries. And under each word, under each group of letters, you have 26 subgroups. So the entire search was so well classified that it takes just a fraction of a second for you to search anything on the internet. That's exactly what I figured out that our ancient scientists / these wisdom, knowledge repositories did to medicine. So it was all, after that, it was all unraveling what they did, correlating those concepts with the current form of medicine was, that's how I came into, was what I did, and that's how I slowly came into, naturopathy, essentially.
That's amazing. And there's a push towards alternative medicine these days, as people are also realizing there's a lot of side effects to pharmacological treatment, and sometimes it's not really the cure. And I guess people have a push towards naturopathic medicine because there's a treating the whole person rather than just the illness or the symptoms. So we are lucky to have you here because it's rare to find that combination, you know, the Western medicine combined with alternative medicine. Sure. So what brought you to Canada, and how has been your professional life here?
It's an interesting question. I was, in 2008, when I was doing this translational research that I just talked about, I mean, correlating the ancient medical concepts into the current form of medicine, what I figured out was the ancient science talks about 3 agents, essentially. You talk about, I mean, you can check this in Arabic medicine or the Chinese or the Indian medicine. They all talk about 3 agents. And when these 3 agents are in perfect balance in each of the 7 tissues and all of the 42 organs, then the body sets itself into a self-healing mode and cures itself.
Interesting.
That sounds interesting, but then what we did was we demonstrated that in post-MI models. Okay, for our viewers, what is MI? MI is myocardial infarction. When a part of the heart's muscle is cut off from blood circulation, that muscle dies. So that is called as an MI. And we tested this. We did a lot of translational research. I already mentioned about it. And based on our research, we identified the markers for these 3 agents in the heart. We identified those herbs that actually bring about a balance of these 3 agents in the heart. And we created models of MI in animals, and then orally fed these herbs that contained these 3 agents in equal proportion. And you know what? It led to a great innovation. You know, we were the first in the world to demonstrate complete heart regeneration after a post-MI scenario.
Amazing. We want to find out more about that, and it's quite fascinating. But let's take a short break before that. Welcome back to Spotlight. We are talking to Dr. Ravishankar Polisetty, and he's talking about his groundbreaking research and how it brought him to Canada. So we were just talking about this fascinating subtotal regeneration of the heart. So tell us more.
So as I said, you know, when you bring about a balance of these 3 agents in each of the 7 tissues and all of the 42 organs, then the body cures itself. So we tested that in post-MI models. That's when, you know, it became very, very interesting because stem cell research was not giving those results that it was supposed to give. Genomics, we have some problems with genomics because not always, you know, when a gene gets expressed, it gets translated into protein synthesis. So that's how you evolve genomics and transcriptomics and proteomics. You know, there are various branches evolved because there are problems in connecting these different omics. And so my research really got highlighted. You know, when I did this, I first presented it in the Heart Failure Society of America. It was really taken very well there, but then it intrigued people, you know, because, you know, people are trying various methods, but no one came up with a credible model of regeneration of the heart tissue, and that too with body's own resources. You don't inject any stem cells here. So that's the beauty here. So that's how I was invited to Canada, and then he said, I applied for a PR. It really got, I mean, in just 2 months I got my PR.
Well, we are just happy that happened because, like I said, it's a rare combination to find that Western medicine doctor who shows an inclination towards naturopath. And I love the fact that it is about healing the whole person and help them heal from within themselves with the help of science.
Very well said. That's exactly what it is. And moreover, another problem that we have in the alternative medicine is none of those concepts are validated by the current system of medicine. So that translational research had to be done. That's what prompted me to do more translational research. And I felt Canada is the right place to do most of this research. You know, we invest a lot in fundamental research. And I was associated with the York University, gave a couple of presentations there. You know, I'd been also involved with the University of Waterloo, you know, in developing this particular this particular wearable. I was associated with the University of Waterloo. I mean, the Velocity. You've heard about the Velocity? There's a was an incubator which is funded by the University of Waterloo. So my company, I then started my company in 2012 and became a member of Communitech. So it was a cruise. It was a real cruise. Without Canada, it wouldn't have happened, definitely.
Well, you already had it within you, the passion, and you have the appropriate credentials as well. For our viewers, Dr. Polisetty is quite humble, but I would want you to elaborate on your credentials, because you have amazing credentials and you've taken it, and it's a lifelong learning process for you, it sounds like it.
Definitely, yeah. I really feel shy about speaking that, but then, of course, if it helps the purpose, then definitely I would definitely want to share. I was a gold medalist in all of the three fundamental first professional subjects, like anatomy, physiology, and biochemistry. In the Department of Anatomy, even today, my photograph is placed among one of the best students that University of VTAPS had in Belarus. I went to Belarus to do my medicine, actually. Yeah. And then I did my cardiac surgery in Moscow, and then came here after this groundbreaking research happened. So that's how I slowly, but all the while, as I said, while I was passionate about the alternative medicine, I knew that it definitely had those hurdles in the form of, conveying the message in a proper scientific manner. So I'd been continuously working on this translational research, correlating these three agents called the Vata, Pitta, Kapha with the current form of medicine. I mean, the entire research is just a part. It's just 545 hours of lecture.
Just. You're very humble.
So I'll just mention that it's an interesting way. What I figured out was when I was doing how we did research is really interesting, because we created models of these three agents, the Shi Gu Qin in Chinese, or Vata, Pitta, Kapha in the Indian medicine, ancient Indian medicine. We created these models in animals by feeding experimental animals with Vata aggravating, Pitta aggravating, and Kapha aggravating foods. At the end, after 4 weeks, we isolated the hearts based on Langendorf method, and then we checked the action potentials. Interestingly, there were 3 different patterns of action potentials, which then suggested that there are 3 types of electric currents generated in 3 different systems. So that led to an altered signaling pathway. So that's why this is one of the first experiments, which was again published and then cited by right now it is PubMed indexed. This work, yeah.
Wow.
So this is really a breakthrough, because no one else has proved anything of that sort. And then I slowly started understanding that when electric currents get changed in the cells, in the tissues, what it means is that their reactivity, there's an altered reactivity, electrically altered reactivity of the tissues in each of the systems. So, which means the receptors, though you have similar receptors in each of these 3 systems, receptors behave differently in Vata, differently in Pitta, and differently in Kapha.
Amazing.
So this is just a speck of the tip of the iceberg. And there's a lot to talk about it. But then this led to a complete different way of understanding how immunological patterns differ in each individual, how physiological processes differ in each individual. Say, for example, a bad but startling example is when I watched the World Trade Center go down, I saw 3 groups of people. One group running towards the building to help those survivors. One group was literally dumbfounded. It was just watching. That group of people was just watching the building collapse, and the other group ran away. There are 3 patterns for the same event. So that's how the body actually acts. So here, when you bring about a balance of these 3 agents, the cell reacts normally.
Yeah. Once again, it's about helping your own body heal.
Absolutely.
And it's based on all this, your latest innovation has come about, Dr. P. We want to know more about that.
Sure.
But before that, it's time for a short break. Welcome back to Spotlight. We are talking to Dr. Ravishankar Polisetty, and now about his latest innovation. So we're excited, Doctor. Tell us about Dr. P.
It's an interesting innovation for the current generation, but then this has been in practice for centuries, in Asian and the Middle Eastern cultures. The idea was inspired from that, the idea of Nadi Pariksha or pulse diagnosis. So this was inspired, this innovation was inspired from that technique of diagnosing diseases with just examining the pulse. So what we did was, and as I just mentioned in the last two segments, that the ancients classified all the biochemical, biophysiological, immunological, and various other processes that are running in your body into three broad categories. And these three agents that we call as Vata, Pitta, Kapha, they have their fingerprint on the pulse pressure wave. The pulse pressure curve is a dichroic curve. We all know that, right?
Yeah.
So, but then the amplitude, the frequency, the time, the period, the wavelength, the velocity, they change under the influence of either or each of these factors, each of these agents.
Yeah.
So as a part of my translational research, I worked on correlating and then understanding the impact of these three agents on the pulse pressure curve. And also used, of course, time domain and frequency domain, algorithms to understand what is happening under the influence of Vata, Pitta, Kapha. And I found some interesting frequencies that map to Vata, that are specific to Vata, specific to Pitta, and specific to Kapha. I mean, in the Fourier transform, you apply a Fourier transform, a mathematical algorithm to, kind of see how many different kinds of frequencies are there in the actual, in the pulse wave progression. It's called as heart rate variability. And once you know the proportions of these three agents grossly, you divide. There is a technique by which I came up with mapping the frequencies of each of the organs on the pulse pressure curve. I mapped them, there is a certain fingerprint of the functioning of each of the organs. This is just a layman understanding. It's not a scientific, completely scientific explanation, but that's what happens. That's what we figured out. So once we knew what frequencies map to which organs, we know the functioning, we know approximately the functioning of each of these organs. So because of my translational research, as I said, Vata actually makes the tissues hyperreactive. Kapha makes the tissues hyporeactive, electrophysiologically. And then there are different cytokines that are elicited in Vata that are secreted and synthesized in Kapha and Pitta. So we based on my translational research, we classified all the biochemical reactions into three broad categories, put them all into this software. So what happens is once you put this device on, it comes up with the pulse pressure curve. It records the pulse pressure curve for a period of 10 minutes, and applying Fourier's transform, point-care conjecture, understanding non-linear progression of heart rate variabilities, and then translating that into various frequencies. What this tool does is something really amazing. It completely gives a biochemical, metabolic, and physiome fingerprint of an individual, which is pretty unique to each individual. And based on this fingerprint, we solved one of the most important problems: what to eat, how to eat, what not to eat, when not to eat. That's a big problem around the world. If you look at the NIH website, there are more than 700 diets mentioned, and no one knows what diet is good for whom. So we all think healthy food should be something which is literally not processed, or it should be raw food. Some people have problems with raw food. So no one has figured out that. So according to us, we spend more than 100 man-years of time in translational research. So we concluded that the food should correspond to your metabolic / physiome / electrophysiological fingerprint. And so we put all those into this algorithm because, training someone on all of these that I learned is really difficult. So I thought, okay, let me come up with a tool that does all this with technologies that's possible. So we put all those algorithms into this tool. So number one, the tool does is it comes up with your metabolic physiome fingerprint. Based on that, it gives you personalized nutritional recommendations,
Amazing.
personalized fitness regimens. Not all fitness regimens are good for everyone. You don't need to work hours and hours or work out hours and hours in the gym. You don't have to do that. A 7-minute workout is perfectly good. We have come up with those. In Sanskrit, it's called as sukshmam lo moksham, which means, you give enormous things in a very subtle fashion. That's what this tool does, We give personalized fitness solutions based on this. That's the second module. The third module, it gives the entire metabolic fingerprint. It also gives a genomic fingerprint. I'm even scared to tell that, but then because that's what it does.
The future of medicine is here.
Exactly.
Yeah, amazing.
True. So because it gives, as I said, see, not all genes that are expressed translate into protein synthesis. Because again, it's again a game of these three agents. When these three agents are in balance, then genomic expression leads to protein synthesis. When they're in imbalance, they lead to conformational changes in the protein structure, leads to altered transcriptomics, and the protein that is supposed to be synthesized is not synthesized. So we figured out all that. So once you know the VPK, the Vata Pitta Kapha fingerprint, you know what exactly is the genomic fingerprint in a certain individual. Of course, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. That's the third module. The fourth module gives a personalized, customized herbal supplement regimen. And the fifth one is for innovative people. We're coming up with a virtual cell that will mimic the biology of a human being.
Wow, this is quite fascinating. And I love the fact that your research is so to the point, and it also takes into account the compounding factors. So it's really validated research as it's combining Western medicine and naturopathic medicine.
Absolutely.
We want to know more about it. And since we don't have much time on the show, where can we find out more information about it?
We have a website. We're putting all this information on the website with the final leg of getting all the patents. So in a week or so, we'll have all the information on the website, www.panaceanova.com, PANACEANOVA.com.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Polisetty, coming here today, inspiring us and getting us excited about your innovation and giving us hope that the future of medicine is here and we can heal on the whole rather than treat just the symptoms and the illness. Do you have any words of advice for our viewers who, like you, would like to do something outside the box and be successful like you?
Sure. Thank you very much for having me here. Yeah, definitely. I would want to share that, friends, don't worry about health. The body has immense potential to cure its own self. So I usually tell this to my patients, even if they come up with terminally ill cancers or terminally ill heart diseases, I tell them not to worry because we have helped many such terminally ill patients in the last 17 years. Over 8,400 patients were literally cured in various regions, India, Russia, Germany, UK, and various parts of the world. And this really works. What you need to figure out is is there a balance of these three agents or not? And then once this balance is set right, the body cures its own self. So Dr. P, according to me, will empower you to be completely healthy.
Thank you very much, Dr. Polisetty. We wish you all the best, and we'll follow your research.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me here. It's wonderful having you, talking to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So that was Dr. Ravishankar Polisetty, who has inspired us today to think outside the box to bring about change. Well, that's a wrap for this week's show. Thank you for watching us. Continue to follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and write to us at spotlight@ethnicchannels.com. Until next week, this is Amitha signing off, encouraging you to follow the latest developments in healthcare.